Can you believe that the very plate of greens you eat every day to protect your heart, cleanse your blood, and nourish your brain could quietly land you in the emergency room? Without you even knowing why. Picture this. A peaceful evening, you're in your favorite armchair, warm yellow light filling the room. A children's book rests open on your lap. Your little grandson leans his tiny head on your shoulder, his wide eyes waiting for the next fairy tale. You smile, turn the page, and suddenly your throat tightens. You try to speak, but only garbled sounds come out. The hand that once comforted your grandchild grows heavy and drops to your side. Everything blurs, and the only thing left is fear, because you have no idea what just happened. I'm a neurologist, and scenes like that don't just happen in movies. I've seen them unfold in real life, again and again, in older adults who did everything right. People who ate clean, avoided red meat, exercised daily, took their vitamins on time, followed their blood pressure medication religiously. And yet, one morning, they couldn't get out of bed. One night, they collapsed in the bathroom. One afternoon, they froze up during dinner, all because of a seemingly harmless bowl of greens. So where's the problem? The issue lies in the fact that your body at 65, 70, or 75 isn't the same body you had at 40. What once was a superfood when you were young and healthy could become a silent threat when your blood vessels have aged, your kidneys filter slower, and your medications are working overtime to keep your blood pressure stable. Yes, vegetables are still good. Everyone knows that. But not everyone realizes that just one glass of spinach smoothie at night can cancel out your prescribed blood thinners. A late-night kale salad could cause your blood pressure to plummet while you sleep, leaving you collapsed at your bedroom door. A beet juice, a handful of bean sprouts, a bowl of homemade kimchi, all healthy for younger folks, but for older adults taking BP meds, blood thinners, or hormone therapy, these can flip your body's balance overnight. Why? Because aging brings changes we often overlook: weaker vessels, unpredictable clotting, and unstable blood pressure. Medications like antihypertensives, anticoagulants, and hormones already place your body on a tightrope, a delicate balance. And one super healthy meal, one sudden change in habit, is sometimes all it takes to throw it off. But don't panic and toss all your greens out just yet. The good news is, when you understand what to eat, when to eat, and how much is enough, you can still enjoy all the amazing benefits of vegetables without the fear of a stroke in your sleep. So, which vegetables are most likely to turn against you? Why are they good for some, but dangerous for others? And how can you keep them in your diet safely? Stay with me. I'll walk you through real patient stories and familiar veggies, so you can protect your brain and your heart, starting with tonight's dinner. Think back for a moment. How many times over the years have you heard, "Spinach is good for your blood," or "Kale is the king of greens"? Nearly every health article and nutrition video sings the praises of these leafy vegetables, praising their powerful antioxidants, fiber, and especially vitamin K, the golden nutrient that helps your blood clot properly and your wounds heal faster. For someone young and healthy, a giant salad, a green smoothie, or a handful of kale in the morning sounds amazing. But have you ever stopped to ask, what happens when your body isn't as strong and resilient as it once was? To keep blood flowing smoothly, without clotting too much, Many older adults are prescribed blood thinners, from a nightly aspirin to stronger medications like warfarin or Coumadin. These drugs walk a delicate line, keeping your blood thin enough to prevent a dangerous clot from blocking blood flow to your brain, but not so thin that you bleed internally. Doctors calculate the dosage carefully. It doesn't take much to tip the balance, and that not much could be as simple as you suddenly adding a daily spinach smoothie to your routine, or swapping steamed veggies for a giant kale salad every night. The vitamin K from those leafy greens acts like a hidden command. Clot faster, which directly counteracts your blood thinner medication. Your blood thickens, a clot forms silently, travels to the brain, and a stroke strikes in your sleep before you ever call for help. Your body won't send out a warning. There's no pain, no dizziness. At most, if you look closely, there may be subtle clues: bruising less than usual, scratches scabbing unusually fast, or a slightly off blood test result in your INR, a measure of how well your blood is clotting. But who checks that regularly? And this is exactly how one of my patients, 79-year-old Raymond, paid the price. Raymond was healthy. He loved gardening and making his own smoothies in the morning. Ever since his doctor prescribed warfarin to prevent strokes, everything had been stable for years, until he read an article titled 10 Incredible Benefits of Spinach. Believing a little more spinach would help him live longer, Raymond began blending spinach with banana and apple every morning. Just that, for 3 weeks. Then one morning, while sitting and reading the paper, Raymond's mouth froze. His left hand dropped. He had suffered a minor stroke. He survived, but now walks with a cane. When I asked, "Did you change your diet recently?" Raymond simply replied, "I thought spinach was good for me. I just wanted to stay young." No one was wrong, but no one told him that while vitamin K is still beneficial, it must be consistent. Don't binge today and skip tomorrow. Don't suddenly drink green smoothies daily and then stop cold. These swings make it impossible for your doctor to adjust your medication properly. So, if you're taking any kind of blood thinner, remember this simple rule. Greens aren't forbidden. They just need to be consistent. Keep your portions steady. Eat the same amount you're used to. And don't make big changes without telling your doctor. Before switching your multivitamin, buying chlorophyll powder, or jumping on a detox juice trend, ask your physician. One simple question today could save your voice, your arms, or your legs tomorrow. Because spinach, kale, or any leafy green is not the enemy. You just need to understand, at age 70, your body thrives more on stability than on sudden superfood revolutions. When you hear kale or beetroot, most people nod approvingly. Those are superfoods, and they're not wrong. For younger adults with strong hearts and healthy arteries, a daily beetroot juice or kale salad can help lower blood pressure, relax blood vessels, and improve circulation. That's thanks to the natural nitrates in these vegetables. Once inside the body, nitrates convert into nitric oxide, a compound that dilates blood vessels and lowers blood pressure. It's a great effect if you're young, medication-free, and your vascular system is working at full capacity. But after 60, things aren't so simple. Older adults often take medications for blood pressure, heart health, or diuretics. These already work to keep your blood pressure low, to protect the heart, and prevent strain. On top of that, the aging body naturally experiences a nighttime dip in blood pressure. It's the body's way of letting the heart rest and allowing the vessels to relax. Now imagine unknowingly adding more nitrate to the mix before bed, like a beet smoothie or a glass of kale juice. That extra nitric oxide pushes your vessels even wider just as your system is winding down for the night. The result? Your blood pressure drops too far, too fast, and your brain might not get the blood it needs. Picture this. It's a warm, humid night. You wake up to use the bathroom. Your pressure is already low. Add the nitrate effect, blood flow slows. Your brain doesn't get enough oxygen in time. You feel dizzy, lose balance, can't speak, can't call out, and the only sound is the dull thud of your body hitting the cold bathroom floor. Too dramatic? It's already happened. I still remember one of my patients, Mrs. Florence Green, 83, living alone in Michigan. She was active, independent, only on a mild blood pressure medication. After watching a health documentary about green detox, she decided to drink kale juice with apple and celery every night to cleanse her liver. At first, she felt great, lighter, better sleep. But within days, she started having early morning dizziness. She thought it was from poor sleep or dehydration. Then one morning, Florence collapsed in her kitchen, hitting her head on the edge of a cabinet. At the ER, her blood pressure read 82/46, low enough to lose consciousness. After that fall, she gave up driving and moved in with her daughter. And for the first time, she said, "I just wanted to stay healthy. I didn't realize I was making myself weaker." Florence wasn't wrong. Kale and beetroot weren't the problem. The problem was timing. Instead of drinking nitrate-rich juices at night, enjoy them at lunch. That's when your body is awake, your heart's active, and your system can adjust properly. Midday is safer. Blood pressure is naturally higher then, so there's a cushion, not a cliff. Another tip: don't make smoothies or juices a daily detox ritual. For seniors, the best detox is staying hydrated, eating cooked vegetables, and getting to bed early. And if you're on blood pressure meds or diuretics, always check with your doctor before adding any superfood claiming to lower blood pressure. You don't need your pressure to drop lower. You need it to stay steady. Just remember, nitrates from greens aren't the enemy. They only become risky when taken at the wrong time, in the wrong dose. Let kale and beetroot be your daytime allies, not your nighttime traps. In recent years, many postmenopausal women have shared a natural health secret with each other. Eat more soybeans, drink soy milk, and add soy sprouts to daily meals. They believe it's a gentle way to replenish estrogen from plants, to keep the skin smooth, the heart strong, the bones firm, and to avoid synthetic hormone therapy. And to be fair, they're not entirely wrong, but they're not completely right either. Soy sprouts contain phytoestrogens, plant-based compounds that closely resemble human estrogen in structure. When consumed, the body may interpret this as a rise in estrogen. In younger individuals, this can sometimes be beneficial. But after age 60, especially for postmenopausal women, the endocrine system has settled into a new, more stable rhythm, one that has adapted to lower estrogen levels. Suddenly flooding the system with phytoestrogens from food, especially on a daily basis, can disrupt that fragile balance and unintentionally disturb blood clotting, vascular tone, and blood pressure. You won't notice it right away. In the beginning, You might even feel better, fewer hot flashes, improved appetite, better sleep. But silently, beneath the surface, your blood vessels might be reacting. Even plant-based estrogen can trigger abnormal vessel constriction or dilation, increase platelet stickiness, and make your blood more prone to clotting. For anyone taken blood thinners, blood pressure meds, or cholesterol drugs, this interaction can become a hidden trap. I once treated a patient named Jeanette Morgan, 72, a retired nurse who had spent over 3 decades in healthcare. She didn't believe in synthetic hormones and preferred a natural approach. Every day she added raw soy sprouts to her salad, used soy milk instead of dairy, and occasionally enjoyed edamame in the evening. Everything seemed fine until her blood pressure started fluctuating unpredictably. She developed frequent headaches, tingling fingers, and one morning, while folding towels in her bedroom, Jeanette collapsed, her speech slurred, and her vision blurred. Hospital tests revealed a minor ischemic stroke, no immediate red flags in her basic labs. But after reviewing her diet and running coagulation tests, her doctor discovered unusually sticky blood, potentially linked to high phytoestrogen intake from soy. A seemingly small factor, yet one that had affected her brain's blood flow. Jeanette recovered with treatment, but her speech slowed, and her handwriting was never quite the same. She told me, "I thought plant foods were always good. I didn't know plants could have hormones too." And that's the point. Even someone with 30-plus years in healthcare can fall into the trap of overdoing what's healthy. You don't need to eliminate soy completely, but if you're postmenopausal, taking blood pressure meds, blood thinners, or have a history of stroke, limit soy to 2 to 3 times a week, not every day. Rotate your sources of plant protein, lentils, flax seeds, cooked vegetables. Your body thrives on variety, not excess. After her stroke, Jeanette shared a rule she now lives by. If I don't fully understand how something affects my body, I won't eat it every day. Sometimes health isn't about what we add, but about what we learn to moderate. In many households, especially among older adults, jars of pickled mustard greens, kimchi, pickled onions, or fermented eggplant are a staple at the dinner table. For them, these aren't just condiments, they're memories. A bite of tangy pickles with warm rice brings back the flavors of youth, the comfort of tradition. That's why many seniors continue eating pickled vegetables daily, never realizing that this nostalgic side dish might be quietly raising their blood pressure, overworking their heart, and pushing their brain's blood vessels to their limit. The culprit? Salt. Despite being called vegetables, pickles, whether homemade or store-bought, are often packed with sodium. Just half a cup of pickled greens can contain up to 900 milligrams of sodium, nearly half the daily limit recommended for older adults. And unlike salty entrees like stews or soups, pickles are usually eaten on the side, casually, repeatedly, and rarely measured. For younger individuals with healthy kidneys and flexible arteries, excess sodium might only lead to thirst or mild bloating. But for seniors, especially those on blood pressure meds, diuretics, or heart medications, a sudden spike in sodium from fermented foods can lead to spikes in blood pressure that are hard to control, fluid retention, swollen feet, heart strain, unpredictable BP swings throughout the day, silent strokes, tiny brain vessel damage with no obvious symptoms. I once treated a patient named Mr. Harold Dempsey, 81, a retired veteran living in Indiana. He didn't smoke, didn't drink, stayed active, but his blood pressure was all over the place, 180/100 in the morning, then dipping to 130/80 by afternoon, then spiking again without warning. His family blamed the medications, but after reviewing his diet, I discovered the real issue. Harold ate homemade, pickled vegetables every single day, family recipes passed down through generations. Pickled mustard greens, eggplant, okra, even water spinach, he ate them all to help the rice go down. He had no idea that even clean, homemade pickles with no chemicals or additives still contained real salt. That salt still entered the bloodstream, still constricted vessels, still made blood pressure surge unpredictably, and those very fluctuations had damaged the tiny blood vessels in his brain. He had already suffered several minor ischemic events, silent strokes, that went unnoticed. Until one morning, he staggered and slurred his words out of nowhere. After cutting back on pickled foods and switching to steamed greens, boiled veggies, and vegetable soups, his blood pressure stabilized within weeks. But the neurological damage couldn't be fully reversed. Harold could still take care of himself, but his handwriting weakened, his speech slowed, and he no longer felt safe driving. He once told me something I'll never forget. I figured if it was good enough for my mother all her life, it'd be good enough for me. I didn't realize. My body's different now. That sentence has stayed with me, and it's the same reminder I want to share with you. Pickled veggies, kimchi, and fermented treats aren't evil. But after age 60, they're no longer just fun extras on the side. They become foods that require careful thought. If you eat them, do so occasionally, in small amounts, and always pair them with fresh vegetables or low-sodium dishes. If you're managing blood pressure, taking heart meds, or experiencing unexplained dizziness or headaches, look at that jar of pickles in the fridge. It might not just be a condiment. It could be the last grain of salt that tips your blood pressure over the edge. Tomatoes are almost a national treasure found in stir-fries, soups, juices, and salads. When older adults think of tomatoes, they think heart health, sharper vision, cancer prevention, better digestion, and glowing skin. From the garden to the kitchen, tomatoes are everywhere, comforting, familiar, and beloved. But here's something few people realize. Tomatoes, especially when consumed in large quantities or in juice form daily, are extremely high in potassium, and for older adults, that can be more dangerous than it seems. Potassium is an essential mineral. It helps regulate heart rhythm, supports muscles, and keeps fluids balanced inside your cells. But after age 60 or 70, your kidneys often don't work quite as efficiently as before, even if there are no clear symptoms. And if you're taking ACE inhibitors, like lisinopril, potassium-sparing diuretics, or heart medications, the risk of potassium accumulating in your body increases. The danger lies in what happens when potassium levels exceed safe limits. You might start feeling off mild palpitations, irregular heartbeats, leg cramps, unexplained fatigue, dizziness, or a vague sense of unease. In more serious cases, this can lead to dangerous arrhythmias, loss of consciousness, or even sudden cardiac arrest. I remember Mrs. Edna Talbot, 78, who lived in rural North Carolina. A thoughtful, health-conscious woman, Edna had a morning ritual. She blended fresh tomatoes from her garden into a glass of homemade juice, with boiled eggs, half an avocado, and that bright red drink. She believed she was doing everything right. At first, she felt better. Her digestion improved, Her skin looked great, but gradually she began experiencing odd symptoms, fluttering heartbeats, fatigue, lightheadedness when standing, and occasional tingling in her limbs. One afternoon, while folding laundry, she suddenly collapsed, her heartbeat erratic, her face pale. Emergency tests revealed the shocker. Her potassium levels had spiked dangerously high, not from supplements or IV fluids, but from a combination of tomato juice and the ACE inhibitor she had been on for 5 years. Her kidneys were still functioning, but no longer able to eliminate the excess potassium efficiently. Thanks to quick treatment and dietary adjustments, Edna recovered. But her heart rhythm never fully returned to its old steadiness, and she now requires regular monitoring. She told me later, "I thought if it was natural, it must be safe. I didn't know nature could overload me, too." If you're taking ACE inhibitors, like lisinopril, ramipril, potassium-sparing meds, or you have early signs of kidney dysfunction or diabetes, you need to be very careful with tomatoes, especially in the form of juices, concentrated soups, or large daily amounts of raw tomatoes. Just 1 glass of tomato juice can contain 500 to 600 millisieverts of potassium. Add a banana, some potatoes, avocado, and your meds, and you might cross the safe limit without even realizing it. That's why it's better to enjoy tomatoes in moderation, ideally cooked in meals rather than juiced raw. Avoid drinking tomato juice daily if you're on BP meds or have kidney concerns, and make sure to test your kidney function and blood potassium regularly. Most issues develop quietly. Tomatoes can still be part of a healthy meal as long as you keep them in the right place. After age 65, staying healthy doesn't come from eating more of one thing. It comes from eating the right amount, at the right time, in the right way. Eggplant, perhaps one of the most innocent-looking vegetables in the kitchen. It's not overly sour, salty, fermented, or so nutrient-packed that it stirs debate. And yet, for older adults, especially those on blood thinners, aspirin, or with weakened cerebral vessels, eggplant can quietly become a hidden trap. What many don't realize is that eggplant belongs to the nightshade family, along with tomatoes, potatoes, and bell peppers. These plants naturally contain a compound called solanine, a glycoalkaloid, that can trigger low-grade inflammation and, in sensitive individuals, may increase capillary permeability, or how easily blood leaks through vessel walls. Solanine doesn't affect everyone the same way. In younger people with strong vessels and good metabolism, it's usually harmless. But after age 65, when capillary walls have thinned and small brain vessels have lost elasticity, even modest solanine exposure, especially combined with blood thinners, can weaken these vessels over time, potentially leading to tiny brain hemorrhages that go completely unnoticed. The symptoms are vague: mild headaches, brief confusion, momentary disorientation, or subtle slurring of speech. These early warning signs are often brushed aside until a more serious hemorrhage occurs. I once treated Mr. Arthur Delgado, 74, a retired mechanic from New Mexico. He ate carefully and exercised regularly. After reading in a magazine that eggplant lowers cholesterol and improves digestion, he began roasting it every evening and eating it with salads, not in large amounts, but consistently, every day. He was also on low-dose aspirin to prevent age-related ischemic strokes, a common prescription for people over 70. Then, one evening, while watching television, he felt a sudden, blinding headache. He stood up to call his wife, but could only mumble a few garbled sounds before collapsing. A CT scan revealed a small hemorrhage in the left temporal lobe of his brain. No trauma, no hypertensive crisis, no obvious trigger. After reviewing his diet and medication history, the most likely suspect wasn't something he added suddenly, but something he had been eating consistently. Eggplant, night after night, combined with an aging vascular system and long-term blood thinning, the picture was enough to raise a serious red flag. Arthur survived, but was left with slower speech and a tremor in his handwriting. He told me afterward, "I thought veggies were just veggies. I didn't know one could make my blood vessels leak." In truth, you don't need to eliminate eggplant entirely. If you enjoy it, you can still have it, but keep these tips in mind. Always cook it thoroughly. Avoid raw or undercooked eggplant. Don't eat it daily, space it out every other day or a few times a week. If you're taking aspirin, warfarin, or Plavix, consult your doctor about your diet. Watch for subtle signs. Frequent headaches, light slurring, or clumsy hands can be warning signals. Remember, it's not the big things that often cause damage. It's the small, repeated habits that quietly wear down the body's defenses. And sometimes, a single slice of roasted eggplant might just be the final drop that causes a fragile blood vessel to burst. There's one piece of advice older adults often hear on repeat. Getting leg cramps at night. Try taking magnesium. And so, many turn to magnesium supplements, almond milk, or green smoothies in the evening, especially ones made with spinach, Swiss chard, or beet greens, hoping for a natural remedy to relax muscles and improve sleep. And they're not entirely wrong. Magnesium is essential. It helps muscles relax, supports restful sleep, and keeps the heart rhythm steady. But as with most things in senior health, timing, dosage, vascular condition, kidney function, and medications can turn something good into something risky. After age 65, it's normal for blood pressure to drop slightly at night, a natural process that lets the heart rest while blood vessels relax. But if you drink a magnesium-rich smoothie before bed, let's say, spinach blended with almond milk, you're adding even more magnesium into the mix. That further dilates your blood vessels, slows your heart rate, and when combined with blood pressure medications, diuretics, or vasodilators, it can cause your blood pressure to drop too low. And the most dangerous part, it's not the number on the monitor. It's the fall you never saw coming at 3 a.m. when you get up to use the bathroom. I once treated Mrs. Lillian Hooper, 79, a retired piano teacher from Maine. She lived healthfully, no smoking, no alcohol. To ease nighttime cramps and sleep better, she began drinking a smoothie every evening, raw spinach, almond milk, and a banana. The recipe came from a popular senior wellness video online. At first, she slept deeper, but within weeks, she began waking up dizzy during the night. One early morning, while getting up to get water, she lost her balance and hit her head on the tile floor. No one knew until her neighbor knocked on the door at 8 a.m. At the hospital, her blood pressure was 82/48, too low. She had mild unconsciousness and a large bruise on her forehead. Fortunately, there was no brain bleed. But after that fall, she had to use a cane to walk and became afraid of being alone at night. She told me later, "I thought I was taking care of myself. I didn't know I was tiring out my heart." If you're taking blood pressure medications, especially vasodilators like amlodipine or lisinopril, or diuretics, or if you experience signs of nighttime hypotension, waking dizzy, feeling faint when standing up, consider the following. Avoid magnesium-rich greens at night: spinach, Swiss chard, beet greens. If you need magnesium, spread it out during the day and prefer cooked sauces over raw. Always check your morning BP if it's below 90 to 60. Speak to your doctor. Be cautious of getting up suddenly in the night. Use night lights. Stay hydrated and don't rush, because the thing that puts older adults most at risk isn't always a big disease. It's often a small fall, a silent stroke, or a blood pressure drop no one noticed in time. Magnesium is still important, but let it help you at the right time, midday, when you're alert and active, not during the deep hours of the night, when your body is trying to power down. Celery, crisp, refreshing, low in calories, is often seen as a harmless veggie. In diet culture, it's everywhere, chopped in soups, tossed into salads, juiced for detox. For many, celery is clean, natural, and simple. But here's something rarely mentioned. Celery is one of the most potent natural diuretics. It contains plant compounds, particularly apial and phthalates, that can increase urine output and push the body to flush out water and sodium. That might sound like a good thing, especially for older adults dealing with high blood pressure or swelling. But problems arise when that person is already taking diuretics, blood pressure medications, or following a low-sodium diet to protect heart health. In those cases, adding celery to the mix can create a double effect. The body loses more fluid than it can afford, blood volume drops, nighttime blood pressure dips too low, and the blood becomes thicker, making it harder to circulate. The biggest risk? Not the low number on the blood pressure monitor. It's what happens next. Dizzy falls, morning confusion, or worse, thickened blood leading to small clots, which can cause transient ischemic attacks, TIAs, or silent strokes. I once treated Mr. Douglas Riley, 75, a retired carpenter from Pennsylvania. He was healthy, still gardening weekly and cooking at home. After reading online that celery cleanses the liver and balances blood pressure, he began eating it daily. 2 to 3 raw stalks in the afternoon, plus a few slices in his evening soup. What he didn't realize was that he was already taking hydrochlorothiazide, a diuretic, along with a blood pressure medication, and that his body, after 75 years of hard work, no longer managed hydration and electrolytes the way it did at 40. Within weeks, he began feeling lightheaded when standing. One early morning, while pouring hot water for tea, his hand trembled, he dropped the cup, and his speech came out garbled. His son rushed him to the hospital, where an MRI revealed a small ischemic area in the brain, a mild stroke, luckily reversible, but one that startled the entire family. When we reviewed his routine, medications, and diet, the only notable change was the daily celery habit. I'm not telling you to avoid celery forever, but here's what you should keep in mind. If you're taking diuretics or blood pressure medications, limit celery to 2 to 3 times per week. Avoid concentrated celery juice, especially at night. Don't eat raw celery every single day, especially during hot weather, or if you're sweating a lot. If you feel dizzy upon standing, have a dry mouth, or a racing heartbeat. Stop celery for a few days and check your electrolytes, because aging bodies work like delicate hydraulic systems. Just a bit of water or salt loss, and the pressure drops, vessels tighten, blood thickens, oxygen to the brain decreases. And you're left dizzy, or worse, collapsed on the floor with no warning. Celery is still a healthy vegetable. But it's only healthy when you understand this truth. Natural, doesn't mean neutral. It still interacts, it still affects, and it can still throw off the delicate balance your body is working so hard to maintain. All our lives we've been told one simple truth: eat your vegetables, they're good for you. And that's true. Fruits and vegetables are the foundation of lasting health. But after age 60, your body doesn't process food the same way it used to. And this is when a strange paradox begins to appear. The cleaner you eat, the more likely you may run into unexpected complications if you don't realize that an aging body needs stability more than it needs perfection. We've just explored 8 common vegetables together, from kale, spinach, and beetroot, to soy sprouts, tomatoes, eggplant, pickled veggies, and celery. Each of them offers unique benefits. But eaten at the wrong time, in the wrong way, or in the wrong dose, especially when combined with certain medications, those benefits can flip into risks. A glass of beet juice, meant to strengthen the heart, might cause your blood pressure to crash while you sleep. A small plate of soy sprouts, so cooling and refreshing, might interfere with blood clotting in a postmenopausal woman on medication. A few crunchy sticks of celery might dry out an already dehydrated system and send blood pressure plummeting. The most dangerous part? These warnings don't shout, they whisper. You won't feel pain, you won't always notice a clear sign. Just a light-headed moment when standing up, a stumble in the bathroom, a random headache, a bit of numbness in the fingers. Then it fades away. Until one morning, you simply can't get up like you always did. I've met many patients with the same bewildered look in their eyes. But I eat vegetables. I didn't do anything wrong. And they were right. They didn't do anything wrong. They just didn't realize that after age 65, vegetables aren't just plants anymore. They're compounds. They're active agents. And they interact with a body that's no longer the same. So, the most important takeaway from this section is not fear, but awareness. Vegetables are still good. But the best kind of good is eating in moderation, rotating your greens, not relying on just one every day, cooking vegetables when possible, and eating them during the day instead of late at night. Observing how your body responds to dietary changes, and always discussing new food habits with your doctor, especially if you're on long-term medications. Because in older age, health doesn't come from eating super clean. It comes from understanding the body you live in today. It's no longer the strong, flexible machine it was at 30. It's a body that thrives on rhythm, gentle consistency, and mindful choices. In the next section, I'll walk you through how to enjoy vegetables daily without worry, the principles of age-appropriate, medication-safe, and well-timed eating. The real story of a patient who felt dizzy all the time despite eating super clean. Because at the end of the day, you shouldn't be afraid to open your fridge. You just need a food plan that fits who you are today and the life you want to keep living tomorrow. You might be feeling overwhelmed after hearing how so many familiar vegetables could potentially pose risks. You may be wondering, what's left for me to eat? If even vegetables can trigger a stroke, what can I trust anymore? I understand that feeling. Many of my patients have sat across from me with tired eyes and a quiet voice. I just want to be healthy, but the more I try, the weaker I feel. The solution isn't about cutting things out. It's about rearranging, not removing vegetables, but learning how to eat them in a way that matches your age, your body, and your medications. I think of Mrs. Marjorie Lane, 77, a retired elementary school librarian from Michigan. When she first came to see me, her hands trembled, her vision blurred, and her energy was fading. She brought a large paper bag filled with supplements and a handwritten list of all the foods she ate. In a single week, she was eating 14 different vegetables, plus smoothies, green powders, and juices. She smiled faintly and said, "My granddaughter made me a superfood plan, doctor." But that well-meaning plan had overloaded her system. Her blood pressure swung wildly. Her balance became unsteady. Her body could no longer adapt to all the small fluctuations that used to be no big deal. We didn't make any drastic changes. We simply untangled the mess. I told her, "From now on, we don't eat like a health guru. We eat like your grandma used to." Breakfast, boiled egg, whole grain toast, a few slices of fruit. Lunch becomes the main veggie meal, lightly steamed or sautéed greens, rotated daily in moderate portions. Dinner stays light. Porridge, soup, no raw vegetables or smoothies. No vegetable juices, just eat whole veggies, well cooked. No single vegetable more than 3 times a week. And most importantly, stay hydrated throughout the day. Rest regularly, and always tell your doctor before adding new foods or supplements. 2 months later, she came back. Her eyes were brighter. Her voice was stronger. She smiled and said, "I'm not scared to open my fridge anymore, doctor. I finally understand what I'm eating and why. You see, you don't need to live in fear every time you pick up a leaf of spinach. But you do need to stay alert. Here are 4 simple rules to help you eat vegetables safely and wisely. Eat veggies during the day. Avoid raw greens or smoothies at night. Cook your vegetables. Heat helps break down strong compounds and makes digestion easier. Rotate your greens. Don't rely on one super veggie every day. If you're on medications, always check with your doctor or pharmacist before adding highly active foods, like those high in nitrates, vitamin K, or phytoestrogens. Because after age 60, your body doesn't need the most powerful food, it needs the most stable one. Dear friend, by now, you may be feeling 2 things at once. A sense of relief because you finally understand why you've been feeling dizzy, numb, or unsteady during the night. And a touch of worry because suddenly, even a plate of vegetables no longer feels harmless. I understand. But please remember, knowledge is never a burden. In fact, it's the light that helps you move more confidently, more calmly, and more independently, right in your own home, right in your own kitchen. You don't need to fear vegetables. You simply need to choose them wisely at the right time, in the right amount, in a way that matches your body today. You don't need to follow a strict clean eating regimen or drink green smoothies every evening to be considered healthy. Sometimes all it takes is a warm plate of steamed greens at lunch, shared with someone you love just enough to nourish your heart and your brain. Believe this, after 60, longevity doesn't belong to those who live the most strictly. It belongs to those who listen to their bodies and gently adjust their pace to match. So today, I'd like to invite you to do 3 simple things. Look at your daily meals. Is there a vegetable you're eating too often? Are you drinking green juices without really measuring the amount? Write down your medications. And if you're considering adding foods rich in nitrates, vitamin K, phytoestrogens, magnesium, or celery, talk to your doctor first. Share this video with your loved ones, especially your parents, grandparents, or anyone trying to eat really well, without realizing that the aging body needs new rules. And if there's one thing I hope you carry with you after this video, let it be this. Vegetables can still be medicine if taken in the right dose. Your aging body is still resilient if it's understood and respected. Healthy living doesn't have to be complicated, just consistent, gentle, and intentional. You've lived long enough to know it's the simple things that last the longest. So today, begin with a peaceful lunch, a plate of well-cooked greens, a light soup, a sip of warm water, and a steady breath. Because growing older is not about fearing every meal, it's about finally understanding yourself more deeply than ever before. And if something in this message spoke to you, I invite you to leave a comment or share this video with someone you love. It may be you today who helps them avoid a silent stroke in their sleep.